Samuel hears God's voice, a nighttime call. 1 Samuel 3. Lesson: God still speaks, and He uses even young hearts to do great things. Long ago, before the days of kings, there lived a young boy named Samuel. He was kind, helpful, and full of curiosity. Samuel didn't live at home with his parents. He lived in the temple of the Lord, helping a priest named Eli. Samuel's mother, Hannah, had prayed and prayed for a baby, and when God answered her prayer, she promised to give her son back to God to serve Him. So when Samuel was just a little boy, he went to live with Eli at the temple in Shiloh. Samuel helped with everything: sweeping the floors, lighting the lamps, carrying scrolls, and learning about God. In those days, people didn't hear from God very often. It was a quiet time, but that was about to change. One night, the temple was dark. The oil lamps flickered gently. Eli, now old and nearly blind, was sleeping in his room, and young Samuel lay curled up on his mat near the ark of God, where the Lord's presence rested. Suddenly, Samuel heard a voice. "Samuel," he sat up quickly. "Here I am," he said, and ran to Eli's room. "You called me?" Eli stirred and blinked. "I didn't call you," he said softly. "Go back to bed." So Samuel went back to lie down. A moment later, the voice came again. "Samuel." Samuel jumped up and ran back to Eli. "Here I am. You called me." But Eli shook his head. "No, my son, I didn't call. Go lie down again." Samuel obeyed, though he was starting to wonder what was going on. Then, for the third time, the voice called out, "Samuel." Once more, Samuel ran to Eli. "Here I am." Now Eli sat up slowly. Something stirred in his heart. At last, he understood. It wasn't a trick. It wasn't a dream. God was calling Samuel. So Eli gently told him, "Go lie down again, and if the voice calls you, say, 'Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening.'" Samuel nodded and returned to his place. The room was still and dark. The lamps flickered low. And then it happened again. "Samuel, Samuel." This time Samuel sat up and whispered just as Eli had taught him, "Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening." And then God spoke. God told Samuel about things to come, how Eli's family had done wrong and had not obeyed God, and how change was on the way. God was calling Samuel to be His messenger. When morning came, Samuel opened the temple doors as usual, but his heart was full. He didn't know what to say. Eli saw him and said gently, "Tell me what the Lord said. Don't be afraid." So Samuel told him everything, and Eli, though the message was hard to hear, accepted it. "Let the Lord do what is right," he said. From that day on, Samuel grew in wisdom and strength. The people of Israel began to see that God was with him. He became a prophet, a leader, and a voice for God's people. What this story teaches us: God still speaks, and He can speak to anyone, even children. When we listen, God gives us courage and purpose. Wise mentors, like Eli, help us recognize God's voice. Obeying God might not always be easy, but it's always right. Even in the quiet of night, God was speaking, and young Samuel said yes.